Chill.
Hello Marvel Legends and welcome to another episode of Displaying Model Behavior, and today we are going to do another countdown of best tips for new collectors to establish and build an incredible collection, be it Marvel Legends, NECA, or all points in between. This is in no particular order, so don't think one is more important than the other. This is just what comes to my head in the moment. This is some of the advice that I've learned through the process of the many mistakes I've made. So let's do it. Ladies and gentlemen of the collecting community, wear sunscreen. If I could offer you only one tip for the future, sunscreen would be it. The long-term benefits of sunscreen have been proved by scientists, whereas the rest of my advice has no basis more reliable than my own meandering experience. I will dispense this advice now. Probably the biggest piece of advice, and the one that I think has made this hobby so much more enjoyable, is join communities, join Facebook groups, talk to people, make friends.
Oh, friend!
Unexpected things for me that came from collecting action figures is just what a great community it is out there. Like, I have people who I know now in all different parts of the States, over in Asia, Australia, all throughout Europe, all really cool, like-minded good brothers who enjoy collecting all these different action figures, and it's such a great community in there, and there's a lot of fun to be had with it. It's a great community. People want to help each other out, trade advice or display ideas, kit bashes. There's so many cool things that you can do and interact with people. Go onto Facebook, join some communities based in your country and some wider international ones, and there's so much good positivity to come from doing that. Now, this might seem a little bit hypocritical because I buy so much of my stuff online, but that's only because I have to. I don't have a brick and mortar store nearby, but I'm a big advocate for brick and mortar comic book and action figure stores. My goodness, there's nothing more fun than rummaging around through them and seeing what's out there. But I do say one of the best things about doing that is that you can look at the figures before you purchase them. Because another big sort of assumption I made was that all the figures are going to be the same uniform look. They should be, but they so often are not. Paint chips, bad paint jobs, these are all assembled in a factory by the tens of thousands, and sometimes things will slip through the cracks. And the amount of times that you might get a figure and then realize, like, oh wait, the paint is off on the face, or there's a chip here, or even like there's a whole piece of paint missing. It happens. So if you're actually in a store, you can look at the figures. You've got a whole rack of them. You can take them off and be like, this one looks better. This one, like the eye looks a bit wonky, or this one, there's like a little chip there. It's amazing how much variance there actually is in the different figures. So if you can go to a brick and mortar store and shop around, look at the options and see which one is the perfect figure. Don't sell figures just because you think, I don't need them anymore, because chances are you might do. If you enjoy selling and trading and that's like part of the experience, then by all means do it. For me, I keep selling figures and then about a month or so later being like, shouldn't have done that. And then I've looked at my collection and been like, they would have gone really well with that era of the figure or that timeline of the figure. And then I'm like, well, I guess I'm gonna have to buy it back now. Case in point, I bought the Super Skrull Fantastic Four because I didn't have the Walgreens one. Then I got the Walgreens one, so I sold the Super Skrull Fantastic Four. Then about a month later, I was like, I kind of wish I hadn't done that because I like having a modern Fantastic Four, and I do my displays chronologically, so it makes sense to have a modern Fantastic Four. I gotta buy these back again. So if you think there's a chance you might want to hold on to the figures and you got the space and the money to do so, then do it, because you might be glad you did in the future. Now, this is a good piece of advice for the commerce of collecting, the buying and the selling. If you're on the groups and you see a good deal, you want to buy something, go goods and services with PayPal. It's nice to, depend on the kindness of strangers and assume that everyone's out to help each other, which that's the great thing about this community. People generally are, but it doesn't hurt to cover yourself with goods and services on PayPal, because that's what it's there for. Now, if it's someone that you know very well, who you've met in the community and you've got to know, then that's great. You can go friends and family. That's why it's called friends.
Oh, friend!
Because you trust the person. But initially, if you want to pay out a lot of money, get something you really want, then get yourself covered. And that's what doing goods and services is all about. Now then, for me, with my kind of analytical brain, spreadsheets are great. Make a spreadsheet of the figures that you want and try to stick to it. That will help you control your spending. Now, this is rich coming from me, who was only going to collect the Clone Saga figures. Yeah, you're right. But also, spreadsheets are great for everything else. I have all sorts of spreadsheets with columns of the figures I own, the figures I want, what ones I have pre-ordered, or more specifically, what figures have I bought from private sellers, because there was a time where I was buying so many different figures from so many different people, I couldn't keep track of what I had on order from who. There was honestly times where someone would message me and say like, oh hey man, sorry it's been delayed a bit, but I finally sent out your figure, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot I bought that. It makes it so much easier to keep stock of everything, and also I find it oddly satisfying. Alright, this next one is a good piece of advice, but really rich coming from this guy, which is don't spend silly money on a figure because you think like, oh, I might never get a chance to buy it again. You will, I promise. Nothing is gone forever. That's the great thing about collecting these days, is that we know the value of stuff. We're not like crazy people in the 1960s and 70s who are like, I'll just buy these Star Wars figures and then throw them away. No, we know what stuff is worth. So we hold on to everything. So if you see a figure where you're like, this might be my only chance to get it. No, it definitely won't be your only chance, I promise. And that's not a bad thing. So nothing is gone forever, you know? So if you see something and you're like, this might be the only chance I get it. It's more than I want to pay, but it'll never come around again. Yeah, it will. It will come around again. So don't feel like, I don't really want to pay that much money, but if I don't, I might never see it again. No, you will. Relax. You know, pay what you want to pay for things. If you have to agonize over spending a certain amount of money on something, then you probably don't want it. There's nothing better than seeing a figure and going like, oh, that's a great deal, I want to get it, as opposed to being like, I don't really want to spend that much, but I kind of want it. Relax, breathe deep, cleansing breath. It's going to come back around. Another big one for me, who is impulsive like a young child and doesn't pay attention to things that they really should do. If you're buying stuff on eBay or from listings, just read the listings more carefully. Especially when I first started collecting, there were things where I was like, I really want that figure, that's great, that's a good price. And then it's actually one of the 3.75 inch small scale ones, and you're just like, no wonder it was such a good price. It's actually not what I wanted. And then similar things, like even customs. I almost bought a Machine Man custom because I thought it was legit. I thought it was just an out-of-box legit figure. And then it wasn't until I purchased it, and then I saw like, custom, for goodness sakes. Granted, I was probably a little bit drunk at the time, so that might explain it. Don't go onto eBay when you've been drinking. That's another good piece of advice. But yeah, also just don't be an impulsive idiot like yours truly. Slow down, read the description really carefully. Even the title, even if the title is in bold, doesn't mean that you will necessarily read it. I know everyone's going to be watching this going like, well, duh. But honestly, I'm the person who makes the well, duh mistakes. So it's worth mentioning. Okay, now this next one is a big one for me that I had to kind of learn the hard way as well. If you keep the boxes for figures, which is great, remove all the accessories before you put them into storage. If you throw the box away, then of course you're going to do that anyway. But if you keep the boxes, if you take the figures out and then put the boxes in storage, take the accessories out before you do. The amount of times that I've been like, I think I want to swap the hands on that character. Oh God, where's the box? I really want to change the head on that guy. Where's the other spare head? It's in the storage lockup unit under a pile of other. No. As you can imagine, after a few years of collecting and a lot of figures, I have a lot of boxes in my parents' attic. Thanks, Mum and Dad. So the last thing you want to do is see a figure and go, I really want to do a head swap. What box is this box in, and how do I find it? And I've had to rummage through like the eaves in the attic trying to find like that one head in a box. So yeah, just take all the accessories out before you put the box away, because even if you think, I'm never going to use that random gripping hand, you might. Or if you're going to start kit bashing things later, another figure down the road might need it. So just take everything out, store it together, and then you know where it is when you need it. Speaking of taking the accessories out of the box, the other good thing to do is to go to a hobbycraft type store, and you can buy big boxes that have nice individual compartments. So you can have a compartment for all the heads, a compartment for all the hands, the weapons. It makes life so much easier. So then also when you look at your shelf or your different figures and you're like, I kind of want to change this guy up a little bit, you know exactly where to go. And also for kit bashing ideas, sometimes I'll just pour out all the heads and be like, what can I do with these? And especially if you're selling figures too, you don't want to have to be desperately, frantically rummaging around trying to find all the different pieces and components. So that is a huge one. Every time I get a new figure, I pose in the way I want, then I take the extra accessories and I put the heads in the head box, the hands in the hand box, and it works so, so well. It's a really fun part of the collecting experience, and especially with things like Marvel Legends and NECA that come with so many accessories, it's great to just store everything in one place, and then if you need it, you know where to go. Now, this is a piece of advice specifically for Marvel Legends collectors, which is get Marvel Unlimited. It's such a great app and resource for appreciating your figures more. Case in point, the new Frogman that just came out. Who? Who's Frogman? I don't know who Frogman is. I kind of recognize the design, and I've been reading comics for like 30 years now. Well, you can just go onto Marvel Unlimited and you can look up all these different appearances from this character. You can find out about his history, and you can read some classic, I'm not sure, are there any classic Frogman issues? But you can read past issues about the characters. It's so worth it. You have nearly the entire back catalogue of Marvel comics from like 50, 60 years. It's bonkers what you get. So if you enjoy reading comic books and getting a better appreciation for the figures, then absolutely get some Marvel Unlimited. Now, this is a classic one, and I'm sure that a lot of people watching this would be like, yeah, you're gonna tell me how to suck eggs as well? But it's about stiff joints and how to, move elbows that don't want to move or knees that don't want to move. Because again, when I first started, I didn't know this. I hadn't maneuvered action figures since I was a little kid. And back then it's just like, oh, well, you just move it. Whereas now things are much more intricate and it's not always easy. Hot water and hair dryers are your friend when it comes to loosening up joints, changing out accessories. The plastic is stiff and it doesn't always do what it's supposed to do, especially with NECA, but especially with double jointed elbows and knees. Especially I find like with skinny elbow joints, one of the hinges will move and the other one won't. And then you try to get it to bend, and it just bends the peg out of shape. It's a whole thing, especially with Spider-Verse Peter Parker I just found. So if you warm them up, then you can manipulate them a bit better, and be careful because these figures are more fragile than a big clumsy oaf might have originally envisioned. Another really big point I would say is don't get caught up in the hype, which I have been guilty of so many times. When a new figure is coming out, people will be posting their pictures online and you're getting to get reviews, and there's a lot of hype behind it that might make you think, oh, I should probably get that figure that I don't really need. And if you're in the Facebook groups and stuff, you will see people saying, oh, this figure looks so great. And then even worse, you will see people getting it. It'll arrive in the mail and they'll post pictures and be like, oh, this looks amazing. You'll be like, I want to be a part of the conversation. I want to enjoy this figure as much as everyone else says, you know what, I'll get it. And then you get it and you do enjoy it, and then after a while you're like, I don't really know what to do with this guy. My case in point was like the Old Man Logan Hawkeye 2-pack. Beautiful figures, like really great sculpting and stunning artwork, but like, did I really want them? Probably not, but I got caught up in the hype with everyone showing them off, and I was like, oh yeah, go on then. And now I'm like, well, they're fine, but I don't really need them. I don't love them, but at the same time, because of my previous point, I'm not going to sell them either, because I might change my mind at some point, and I've got them now, so I'll stick with them. And on the flip side of that is the Hellfire pack, where again, everyone was getting caught up in the hype, and rightly so, a great pack, but I was like, I don't really need it. And this was a rare one where I was like, you know what? Be strong, Dave. You don't need it. You don't have that much affection for the Hellfire Club. Just sit back, relax. Maybe it'll go on sale super cheap at some point and you can pick it up there. But for the original sticker price, nah, you don't need it. Walk on by, pal. Walk on by. And I'm glad that I did. And finally, guys, my biggest piece of advice is if you want to start a YouTube channel based on your collection and your hobby, then just remember to stay grounded, all right? Don't get caught up with the money and the fame and the celebrity and the women and the parties that come with being a successful YouTuber. Always stay grounded and remember where you came from. Keep it real. And guys, that concludes my advice on building a great Legends collection or any kind of action figure collection. But just remember, advice is a form of nostalgia. Dispensing it is a way of fishing the past from the disposal, wiping it off, painting over the ugly parts, and recycling it for more than it's worth. But trust me on the sunscreen. And I hope you enjoyed this list. Is there anything that I missed out? I'm sure that there is. Comment below, let me know. And if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, then join the 6-1 Clicks by clicking the like, share, and subscribe buttons. Now stay tuned for the Data Blast, the best stuff that I found on Instagram, curated for your enjoyment. Go follow the creators because they do fantastic work. And until next time, keep displaying model behavior. I'm sitting here in my parents' bed.
Zayas, Dr. Zayas.
What's wrong with me?
I think you're crazy.
Want a second opinion?
You're all so lazy.
Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas. Oh, Dr. Zayas.
Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas.
Can I play the piano anymore?
Of course you can.
Well, I couldn't before.
Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas. Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas. Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas. Oh, Dr. Zayas.
Help me, Dr. Zayas.
Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas. Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas. Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas. Oh,
Get your
Dr.
paws
Zayas.
off me, you dirty ape!
Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas. Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas. Dr. Zayas.
All right, here's the 411, folks. Say some gangsta is dissing your fly girl. You just give him one of these. Dissing your fly girl. Dissing your fly girl.
This is fun. That's what it's all about. Don't get too stressed out about collecting figures, or, you know, if you're spending too much, then just relax. Don't just stop spending. Wow, that's the smuggest advice I've ever given. I'm great at Alcoholics Anonymous as well. Have you tried not drinking? Yeah, just, you know, just be strong like me.